Decoded.
Okay, so have you ever felt kind of stuck, Like you're going through the motions, but not really excited about where you're headed?
Oh, yeah, totally. I think we've all been there. It's like you're on autopilot, but you're not really sure where you're going, or even if it's the right destination.
Exactly. And it's so easy to get caught up in that, especially with all the pressure to constantly be achieving and optimizing and, like having it all figured out.
Right. Like there's this whole narrative around setting these huge, ambitious goals and then grinding it out until you reach them.
Yeah.
But what if there's a different approach, a way to grow that's more about exploration and curiosity than just checking boxes?
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today with Tiny Experiments by Anne-Laure Le Cunff. It's this really cool book that challenges that whole linear goal-setting thing and instead encourages you to embrace uncertainty and kind of see where it leads you.
And it's not just some woo-woo self-help stuff either. Adam Grant calls it a way to let uncertainty bloom into something amazing.
Yeah.
And Cal Newport describes it as like a breath of fresh air for living a more playful and experimental life.
So basically, we're talking about ditching the 5-year plan and instead asking, what if? What if we approached growth with more curiosity and a willingness to experiment?
Yeah, it's about those little nudges, those tiny experiments that can help you uncover new passions, discover hidden talents, and maybe even find a more fulfilling path than the one you thought you were supposed to be on.
And what's really cool is that Le Cunff's whole perspective comes from her own experience. She worked at Google, a place that's known for its structure and clear career paths.
Yeah, she talks about how everything was super defined at Google. Like you knew exactly what skills you needed to level up, what steps you had to take. It was almost like a recipe for success.
Which sounds great in theory, right? Like who wouldn't want a clear roadmap to success?
Right, but she actually found herself feeling unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Like she was on this prescribed path, but it wasn't really fueled by her own curiosity or genuine interests.
So even though she was in this seemingly ideal situation, something was missing.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes a lot of courage to recognize that kind of disconnect, especially when you're in a position that many people would envy. It's like realizing you're climbing the wrong ladder, even though it looks like the right one from the outside.
Totally. And it's even more courageous to actually do something about it. To step off that path and start exploring what truly resonates with you.
And that's what she did.
Yeah.
She left Google, and even though there was that pull to immediately jump into another conventional role, like starting a company, she took a different approach.
Which eventually led to Nest Labs, her incredible newsletter that reached thousands of readers. It started as her own little experiment, a commitment to writing 100 articles.
And it just organically grew into this amazing resource for people who are trying to navigate complexity and understand their own minds.
It's a perfect example of how those tiny experiments, those seemingly small actions, can lead to something truly meaningful and impactful.
And her journey really mirrors the core principles of tiny experiments. It starts with committing to your curiosity, letting that be your compass. Then you bring in mindful productivity to keep things moving forward.
And then this is key. You learn to work with uncertainty instead of against it. You become more adaptable and open to those unexpected twists and turns.
And finally, there's this idea of growing with the world around you, recognizing that our experiences and interactions shape who we become.
It's like this ongoing dance between exploring, pursuing, and adjusting, all while engaging with the world and the people in it.
And it all starts with asking those compelling questions and designing those little experiments to find your own answers.
She puts it so beautifully, saying it's about getting comfortable with a winding path where those unexpected turns aren't seen as failures, but as invitations to explore a new direction.
And she uses Amelia Earhart as a fantastic example of this curiosity-driven growth. We often focus on her ambition and bravery, but the book really emphasizes her deep-seated curiosity, that's something inside her that always liked to try new things.
It wasn't just about reaching a specific destination, but about the journey itself, the thrill of the unknown, and the excitement of pushing boundaries.
And it's so different from how we're often conditioned to think about success. We feel this pressure to have this perfectly linear story, this step-by-step plan that leads to some predetermined outcome.
And when things don't go according to plan, we tend to see it as a failure instead of an opportunity to learn and adjust.
And we get so caught up in this cycle of self-optimization, trying to hack our way to productivity and control. But it's exhausting and ultimately unsustainable.
Absolutely. We end up feeling like we're constantly behind, like we're not doing enough. And it can lead to this kind of apathy towards goals, this no goals, just vibes feeling.
But Le Cunff argues that it's not ambition itself that's the problem. It's how we approach it. Linear goals, with their emphasis on planning and execution, can easily become these rigid boxes that stifle creativity and make us afraid to fail.
Right. It's like we're so focused on reaching the destination that we forget to enjoy the journey. And that fear of failure can keep us stuck in our comfort zones, afraid to take risks or try new things.
And those tiny experiments, those small manageable actions, are designed to break us out of that cycle. They're about exploring possibilities without the pressure of having to achieve some grand outcome.
That image she uses of being on a long flight without Wi-Fi is so powerful. It's like you're suspended between destinations, free from all the usual distractions and demands.
And in those moments of uncertainty, that's when the potential for new insights and self-discovery really opens up.
It's like our brains are finally able to relax and wander and make those unexpected connections that we might miss when we're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation.
And that's where those tiny experiments come in. They're about creating those moments of uncertainty, those opportunities to step outside of our routines and see what happens.
So instead of clinging to the illusion of control that linear goals can offer, we can start to embrace the unknown and see where it takes us.
And the first step is to reignite our natural curiosity, to start paying attention to those little sparks of interest that we might normally dismiss or ignore.
And Le Cunff gives some really practical advice on how to do this. Like she talks about keeping what she calls field notes, but it's not like a formal diary or anything.
It's more about capturing those fleeting moments of curiosity, those random thoughts and questions that pop into your head throughout the day.
It's like becoming a more conscious observer of your own life, noticing the things that grab your attention or make you wonder why.
And from those observations, you can start to form hypotheses, those intuitive ideas based on your experiences and interests that you want to test out.
Like if you notice that you always feel drained after spending time on social media, maybe your hypothesis could be that reducing your screen time will boost your energy levels.
Or if you find yourself daydreaming about learning a new language, maybe your hypothesis could be that taking a beginner's class will spark a new passion.
And these hypotheses aren't meant to be these huge, overwhelming goals. They're just small experiments, little ways to explore your interests and see what happens.
And that's where the idea of the pact comes in. It's a tangible commitment to test your hypothesis for a specific period of time.
It's like a mini challenge, a way to hold yourself accountable and actually follow through on your curiosity.
And she emphasizes that a pact is different from a New Year's resolution. It's not this grand all-or-nothing declaration.
It's a single, simple action repeated over a defined, often shorter time frame, making it much more manageable and sustainable.
And she encourages you to think tiny when designing your pact. What's the absolute smallest version of this experiment you can run?
Like if you want to start writing, maybe your pact is to write for just 5 minutes every day.
Or if you want to learn to code, maybe it's to spend 15 minutes a day working through an online tutorial.
The key is to make it so small and manageable that you can't talk yourself out of doing it.
And as you start experimenting, you'll inevitably encounter those moments when you want to give up or go back to your old ways.
That's where mindful productivity comes in. It's about understanding your own energy rhythms and finding ways to work with them instead of against them.
It's about recognizing that we can't always be on and that it's okay to take breaks to rest and recharge.
And she introduces this really cool concept called kairos rituals.
Which are basically small, intentional acts that can help you shift your state and get into a more focused and productive mindset.
Like taking a few deep breaths, listening to a calming piece of music, or even just stepping outside for a few minutes to get some fresh air.
It's about creating those little moments of pause and intention throughout your day that can help you stay grounded and energized.
And speaking of energy, she has this fascinating way of looking at time. She contrasts linear chronos time, those equal measurable units that we always seem to be running out of, with kairos time.
Which is more about those moments of deep focus, creativity, and presence when we feel truly alive and engaged.
And she encourages us to shift our focus from simply trying to cram more into our days to really savoring those kairos moments and making the most of them.
It's like instead of just trying to get through our to-do list, we're actually present and engaged with the task at hand.
And that can make a huge difference in both the quality of our work and the overall enjoyment of our lives.
And another big thing that can drain our energy and keep us from making progress is procrastination.
Which she actually reframes in a really interesting way.
Right.
She sees it not as a moral failing or a lack of willpower, but as a signal that something's off.
Like maybe the task doesn't align with your values, or maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe you just need to break it down into smaller, more manageable steps.
She has this great framework called the triple check, where you ask yourself if the task aligns with your head, your heart and your hand.
So basically, are you strategically on board with it? Are you genuinely interested in doing it? And do you feel capable of completing it?
And if one of those elements is out of sync, it can give you a clue as to why you might be procrastinating.
And sometimes procrastination isn't even our fault. Like sometimes it's a response to external factors like an unreasonable workload or a toxic work environment.
In those cases, it can actually be a healthy form of self-preservation, a way of protecting ourselves from burnout or overwhelm.
So it's important to look beyond ourselves for solutions when we're feeling stuck and to recognize that sometimes the answer isn't to just try harder, but to change the situation itself.
And speaking of changing things up, Le Cunff also challenges this idea that we have to be perfect all the time.
She talks about how perfectionism can be incredibly limiting and how embracing imperfection can actually free us up to be more creative and productive.
Like she uses Shonda Rhimes's Year of Yes as an example of how saying yes to new experiences and challenges, even if they're scary or imperfect, can lead to amazing growth and opportunities.
And she contrasts perfectionism with the Italian concept of dolce vita, which is all about finding joy in simplicity and savoring life's pleasures.
It's about recognizing that we don't have to be the best at everything, and that it's okay to let go of some things in order to focus on what truly matters.
And she introduces this really cool reflection method called plus minus next, where you take some time each week to reflect on what went well, what didn't, and what you want to try next.
It's a simple but powerful way to bring more intention and awareness to your actions, and to continuously learn and grow from your experiences.
And growth isn't always about constant forward momentum. Sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is to stick with something even when it gets tough.
She talks about the power of persistence and how it can help us achieve our goals even when we face setbacks or obstacles.
But it's also important to know when to let go. Sometimes we need to pivot or change direction, and that's okay too.
And when we're facing those big decisions, she cautions against narrowing our cone of uncertainty too quickly.
Which basically means don't jump to conclusions or make decisions based on limited information.
It's about staying open to new possibilities and being willing to adjust our course as we learn more.
And she provides a really helpful framework called the steering sheet, which can help you assess your situation and make more informed decisions about whether to persevere, pause, or pivot.
And no matter how carefully we plan life, inevitably throws us curveballs. Those unexpected disruptions that can really knock us off course.
And she emphasizes that the key to navigating these disruptions is to actively accept them rather than resisting them or pretending they're not happening.
And she has this great two-step process for dealing with disruption.
First, you acknowledge and process the emotional impact with curiosity and self-compassion. And then you calmly address the objective consequences by looking beyond the immediate fallout.
And finally, she talks about the importance of community and how connecting with others can amplify our curiosity and accelerate our learning.
She introduces this concept of social flow, which is that energizing feeling you get when you're working or creating something together with others who are equally passionate and engaged.
And she encourages us to build our own curiosity circles, those communities of like-minded people who can support us and inspire us and challenge us to grow.
And she reminds us that we don't have to have all the answers to be part of a curiosity circle. It's about being open to learning from others and sharing our own experiences and insights.
And one of the best ways to do this is to learn in public, to share our process, our struggles, and our triumphs with others.
It can feel scary at first, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. It helps us clarify our thinking, get feedback from others, and connect with people who are on similar journeys.
And ultimately, it's about shifting our focus from trying to build this perfect legacy to embracing the present moment and using our skills and passions to make a positive impact on the world around us.
And that's what Tiny Experiments is all about. It's about embracing uncertainty, reigniting our curiosity, and finding joy in the journey of continuous learning and growth.
So as you go about your week, think about one area of your life where you might be feeling stuck or uninspired. And consider running a tiny experiment, a small, curiosity-driven step that could help you unlock new possibilities.
You never know where it might lead. And who knows, maybe it'll spark a whole new adventure.
And don't forget, Anne-Laure Le Cunff even offers a toolkit online to help you get started, so there's really no excuse not to give it a try.
Embrace those tiny experiments and see what amazing things you can discover.
That's it for this episode of Book Decoded. We'll see you next time.